Hello everybody, J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more The Letter. I believe that last time we left off, last time we left off we got a little bit more insight about Luke is what happened. Because he came to, I think, like the parents' night or something like that, for the little blue-haired girl. And, So, last time we kind of figured out that there's obviously a bit more to him than first meets the eye, which is kind of what I've been thinking is the case for a little while, and is again, like I mentioned last time, kind of making me teeter on whether I want to try and keep Hannah and Luke together in a seemingly toxic relationship, but maybe that can change. I had something to say. Oh yeah, so I do apologize if I am a little bit low energy this recording. I stayed up very late last night rewatching the FNAF movie again. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to jump right on into it. Load game, here we go. Well, I guess we could just do continue, huh? Boom. Alright. Luke trails quietly behind us. Even with the small distance in between, his apprehension is palpable, understandably so. No one wants to be caught in the middle of a children's spat. But in the end, this is all just part of my job. I can't just shy away from it, can I? Ah yes, little blue-haired girl and her friend were having an argument. Kylie escorts us to an adjacent hall. At this hour, the corridors and the rooms lining its sides are empty. Save for the gentle rustling of leaves, the twittering of birds outside, and the tapping of our foot against the floor, the whole area stays eerily quiet. Not unusual, though. This is the part of the building reserved for club activities at the end of the school day, and with the rest of the school busy with another event, it's only natural for it to be this deserted. Come afternoon, right after class, it will once again be filled with people. For the time being, I focus on the toilets at the far end, heading straight for it. Luke stays behind, opting to wait for the end of this drama instead, obviously not wanting to deal with another person's kid. Meanwhile, Kylie follows right after me, unusually silent as we approach the ladies' room. Some time before we made the turn down the hallway, she stopped sniffling and started singing a tune under her breath.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Probably to brace or calm herself. Or maybe this is her way of preparing to pull her friend out of her sulk. It certainly reminds me of another person. I make no remarks on it, however. It's all part of growing up, they say. Let her learn. The door's slightly ajar when we get to it, and from inside the sobs of a girl echo weakly, barely audible even in this kind of hush. Yeah, if I learned anything from horror games, echoey children laughter is not a good sign. Turns out Kylie's not the only one upset by this. Despite the situation, a smile forms on my lips as I call out to her friend. Hello there. You're Kylie's friend, aren't you? Melody, is it? She's looking for you. Children can be amusing sometimes. Granted, they can be exasperating, especially around this age, but the endearing things about them outweigh those. All you need is enough level of patience. Career is about to start too. You'll have to come out if you're already going to be really late for it. Miss Alice won't be happy if one of her kids isn't there. I heard she brought little gifts for everyone who'll behave. Don't you want to receive one? However, her cries show no signs of abating. They only grow louder. Not close to a wail. Alarming, regardless. Are you okay? From where I'm standing, it sounds almost like she's in some kind of pain, and it's not impossible. They do that at times, hiding what ails them for fear of reprimand. If it's like that, coaxing her out might be useless. It also makes sense why she chose the loo furthest from their classroom. Oh, I'm so sorry, I gotta turn off my phone chime, dude. Hold on, let me do that. Okay, there we go. Wasting no time, I gesture for Kylie to wait and amble towards the door, calmly so I don't alarm her. At the same time, a distinct sense of deja vu hits me. I've been in this position before, behind a door with someone crying on the other side. My calls ignored as their cries grow into a wail. Just this past week, actually. Even so, being in the same situation before doesn't bring any comfort. I'm putting up for the child beside me. It's the thick undercurrent of worry trickling into my stomach. I take one last breath, then I nudge open the door. It all happens in the span of a second. I don't make it past 2 steps into the room. Her cries abruptly stop. Light footsteps shuffle behind me, coming to a halt at the door. My heart skips a beat, and when I turn... Yeah...
That's not good.
Kylie?
Miss Pink, why don't you help her?
My whole body becomes motionless at the sight of her, words catching in my throat and heart pounding rapidly against my chest. This is Kylie, I'm sure of it. Yet nothing in the manner she speaks, or the way she tilts her head in question carries the youthful, innocent vibes she always brings with her. As if I'm merely looking at a dead, hollow imitation of a child.
Can't you hear her? She's asking for your help.
I am regretting giving her that voice now. But it is not those that trigger a memory. It's those chilling eyes. Calling. Beckoning.
Why won't you listen to her?
All at once the memory returns to me. A tide that has receded and now returns to shore with an overwhelming force, carrying images of a single moment from days ago. Of a world passing by in a blur, and of features I can barely discern under the little light there was. Not even a week has passed. In this minute, while I keep my eyes trained on the child before me, they return with such unbearable clarity. There are no horrid wounds this time, no blood streaming down a pale face, thank heavens. Just lips contorted into a small, twisted smile. They brim with venom I've never expected to see in a child, sending tiny pinpricks of dread crawling up my limbs and winding up my neck.
You're a bad person. People like you deserve to die.
I can't breathe. Those whispers and laughters again. Judging. Mocking. Taunting. Each scathing word ringing sharp and true against my ears. My throat closes in. My whole body tenses. A chill settles at the tips of my fingers, every digit gone rigid from the cold. With every single draw of breath, any struggle for air or freedom, the coils wrapped around my body tighten, dragging me down. A gradual torturous descent into another bottomless abyss. Help! On, and on, and on, until I lose touch with myself and the world. Help me! Until darkness claims me, and, unexpectedly, a note. In the distance, harsh and piercing, cutting through the thick stupor and shattering the haze without warning. Are you ladies done with your business here? I don't have all morning to wait for you two. My eyes snap open, the world shifts into place with a ragged gasp. When I glance up, a different set of eyes meet me.
Are you okay, Miss Pink?
No anger. No vile hatred in them. Just plain, sincere concern. Bit by bit, I become aware of my surroundings and myself as warmth steadily slips back to me. I've reached out for the nearby counter to steady myself at some point, and my knuckles have gone white from how rigid my grip on it is. It's over now, yet the tension hasn't left my body. My heart still hammers hard against my chest in erratic rhythm, and my breathing still comes in short, shallow bursts. Before me, Kylie fumbles with her hands, utterly unsure of what to do to an adult in what's probably a laughable state.
Did you get sick? I'll call Theo, okay? Stay here and don't move.
No need, just leave me alone.
You will know how to fix you. Wait, okay?
I wish I can speak reassurances to her, but I can't shake it off. The dread is there, twisting at my insides in anticipation. Of what? I'm no longer sure. Pushing myself off the counter, I break off into a run, brushing off the anxious look Kylie gives me when I gently push her away on my way out, or the furrow in Luke's brows when I stumbled into him outside. Whatever they both saw on my face, I care not to know. Bloody hell, I don't even care what's happening anymore. The tremors continue long after the last of my classes have ended. Although none of my students have commented on it, I've caught a few sharing anxious glances. Every time his pen slips from by my hand, or my shoulders tense whenever called. How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea would have provided any comfort. Or is this the 5th? Egad, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse on my part, after having been sick the week before. And it is a natural conclusion. These are just stories, a centuries-old law passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? One of my Da's books even went as far as to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. Tree giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb, or hell, there's even one story about a demon baby. All folklore that have never had a smidgen of truth in it, most probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days. Much like every other one in every other place, the world is more universal than people care to think. But look at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank. Perhaps Isabella's right all along. A terrible thing if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up, and my brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember where I've encountered this person on my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zeroes in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out of the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book, but in the end she's given it to me, under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about that until now, and, well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out, about 1 or 2 depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, then someone suddenly invited me out for one reason or another. Oh, story updated. Days later, a friend stops showing up in her flat, right after worrying reports pop up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I have been flipping through the pages of said book moments ago, though never really reading anything and merely hoping for a distraction, to no avail. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer. Marianne? Hello, here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it? No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon. Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book? Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing. Oh, sure, what about? You grew up in the city, didn't you? It's a peculiar question to ask someone you've just met, but I answer her nonetheless. I'm more curious where she's heading with this by starting with that. Born and raised, 3rd-generation migrant. Why'd you ask? So, you must be familiar with the local lore, the, stories? Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you. No, let's just keep things between us, okay? It's nothing too big, and Alright. I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy, but things have been really, odd. Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project? In hindsight, I should have expected it to lead to this. She must not have lived here long if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella. Superstition's down to the last hair. Though, it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years and having so many chances to look it up before. The Ermengarde mansion, yes? Yes, that one. And, the thing is... Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what, just forget I ever called you about this. It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me feel sick and see stupid things. See things? No, wait. It's alright, I don't mind. There's a moment's pause before she responds again. She's right in that this is a silly thing to talk about, especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs with regards to these things. I won't blame her if she hesitates. I can't believe I've been asking you about this. It's fine. Why don't you think of it as some form of research? Well, alright. But after this we're gonna forget we ever had this talk. My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion? Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place is past what happened to the owners. Anything you can give me. Let's see. To start off, I knew my best to give her a concise summary, from the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago and who had built it, up to the point it got deserted after the last heir's death, and the deed was passed on to the Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished even. These are all nothing she probably hasn't heard of before, yet there's just dissatisfaction in the tone once I finish. That's really all there is to it? As far as I know. There's just a little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this really is everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more? No other mention of other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort? My blood runs cold. Any warmth and comfort the tea I've drank has given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The phone creaks softly as my light hold on it turns into a firm grip. This whole letter bullshit is starting to turn into more than a coincidence. None that I've ever heard or read of. What does the letter have to do with this? Oh, no, it was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thank you for answering my questions. She ends the call abruptly with only a clipped goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerably denser, in light of what little I've gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine, I'd give her that, but she's left a lot of things out. I get the sense she only asked because something's happening around her too, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, hadn't is what they meant to say, and if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection. Just what the hell did we get ourselves into? Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusions to be formed with what we have. And if you want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to those stories. As absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us that letter might tell us something beyond what we know. And tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an exciting thought. Since the place is privately owned now, I can't just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay, as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. Okay, so before we continue, we do know that there are, like, cells underneath the mansion that are, like, have been hidden there or something like that Marianne discovered. And I think that's potentially what she might be alluding to. I'm not sure exactly what point we would be at in Marianne's story. But it's not that moment has already passed where she's... Wait, no.
I forget. Because I'm pretty sure she... at the end of Marianne's little story that we had, it ended off with her kind of like trapped in the cells. Or something along such lines, I believe. I'm not sure. But, yeah, we do know that there are cellars underneath this whole place. Which is is where I'm thinking this, who I'm assuming is the ghost, got tortured by that one Ermengarde girl, who probably is the one who had the quote-unquote mysterious death. So, I'm just kind of trying to put the puzzle pieces together as we go.
However, all those good vibes disappear into thin air when I run headfirst into Luke. There's really something in this man. Regardless of how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of a few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people have of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth. His mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love. You're still here? Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you? An arse. Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that, losing your touch. Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want? Belatedly, I notice his hand. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands back, behind her back, and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make vague gestures at me and the child. He resembles a fish flopping for air the way he's moving his arms, though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up. Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Theo.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Theo what you told me the other day and this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He may act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, huh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down, but I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips. You, come with us. What makes you think I will? Because the little rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So, do me a favour, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you. You're asking me for a favour and you can't even be bothered to be polite. I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch. Daisy, you just say yes. A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You'd think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite. Please.
Theo said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise I'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right. But just one meal, and make it the cheapest. He and Ashton would get along famously in that department. On a different front, the offer of free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Mostly because Kylie is wisely put on her puppy eyes, and by the second I find all my choices slipping away from me.
Same as Big, it'll be fun. You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Well, My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence, and for a second I'm spared from the act of giving an answer I'll regret either way. Fishing the gadget out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I said it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking, a message from Ashton shows up. Oh.
Let's see, what does it say? Hey Becca, I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya.
Just the usual. Unlike what he does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency to let us know when he's dropping by or he's in the area for some business. From the way he's faced it, it sounds like it might be the latter. Either way, I'm glad to know he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Sighing, I slipped the gadget back into my pocket, but looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him, all to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell that he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that. Well, Daisy, we're waiting here. On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there, but there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former's already made it clear that he'll be busy this week, and, well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if you detest attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them, and it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If, by some miracle, he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one.
Okay. So, from what I'm kind of gathering from this is that this is gonna basically be, hey, do I want to end up potentially doing an Ashton X Rebecca, or do I want to end up doing a Luke X Rebecca? You know, because I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm more of a Ashton and Isabella guy. And again, I'm kind of battling back and forth whether I want to be Luke and Hannah or Hannah and McCullough. As for Rebecca, again, I think I ranted about it in these last couple of videos, but I don't fucking like Rebecca. She's a big fat bitch, dude. Like, Jesus Christ, I hate her so much. You know what? We're gonna go with Luke. Why not? Let's do it.
In the end, it's my own fondness for Kylie that wins out.
Oh, deep behind my mouse. Let's check the relationships. Alright, so we're really liking Luke. Or at least Luke's really liking us. Ashton is not liking us at all. What about Isabella? Ashton's liking us a shit ton. Marianne loves us. Luke doesn't really care, doesn't really like us. Wow, that's crazy that... I mean, Isabella seems to be really loved by everybody except Rebecca. And she really hasn't had much interactions with Hannah and Luke. I feel like these are kind of their neutral states. What about Hannah? Also a neutral state from Isabella. Liked by Zachary, Marianne, and a lot by Luke. Zachary liked a lot by Ashton and Isabella. Rebecca as well, and liked a little bit by Hannah. I wonder if Hannah and Zach would ever be a thing. Alright, Marianne. Liked a lot by Isabella. Not really liked by Luke. And liked a very large amount by Hannah. Okay. I wonder how this is all going to turn out. I guess we'll just have to see. Alright.
Chances are I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or so. If it lasts more than that, I can make up an excuse. A sudden call from a friend or things to work on. It doesn't seem so bad when I think about the pros and cons. At best, it'll be a quiet dinner. At worst, it'll be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more on the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course. Okay, but only because Kylie asked. Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, she tackles me into a huge hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building's exit.
That's alright, I'm sure Theo doesn't mind. He let me pick what we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's close.
Luke follows closely behind, and perhaps out of some desire to keep the dead air away, I can't resist throwing a quip. Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear? I'm the one who should keep my distance. May I remind you who first approached me when you did, and what you did right after? Oh, I remember it clearly, but perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have learned your lesson. Can we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick. Maybe this time it'll stick. You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary. To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I pause to stare at him. He quickly shuts his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no trousers like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except for Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And amidst this newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashen's message lays forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Achievement unlocked, dinner date. Of all the places nearest to the school, Kylie picks this one, and waiting for food to be served is as awkward as I've imagined it to be. Not the bad sort, though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks or we're not exchanging acerbic quips, it's clear he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old by being chattier, even going as far as to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once I catch his frequent cheesed-off expression easing whenever he looks at the girl. And your friend, did you make up with her?
Yep. She said she swore to me she didn't like. She didn't accept the cherries though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the real ones.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some. What a terrible liar. He says he dislikes the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to the nearby bookshelves after having lost interest in the conversation. However, we both revert back to silence. On our own, we have little to talk about, aside from a few questions about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer on local politics and history. He's surprisingly versed with it that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though. It's too early for those. And besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute detail of my life. Better keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding something else to occupy myself. Toying with my mobile, turning it from hand to hand, while we wait for our respective meals. But it'll be a complete lie if I say I'm not waiting for some intervention. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. Ashen's probably at Slaylandwell by this time, working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make up an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him. Cut that out. It's distracting. My hand steals, holding the gadget awkwardly between us, arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining about how appalling the tea they're serving here is. Before that, he's whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and how tasteless the decorations they have here are. Previous to that, he's griped about how dull the place is, compared to the one he frequents on the upper class side of the city. Well, I'm sorry for being a bunch of peasants, Your Majesty. Figures he'll lose his patience soon, having already grumbled about almost everything his eyes can reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now. Why don't you just look somewhere else? I can't. If I turn somewhere else, I might end up looking at the Bob Fog right behind us. Bob Fog? Do I even want to ask? I don't want to hear it. If it's coming out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, he continues. Everything looks good, but have you seen the face? True horror. What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap. Preferably by your own mum. A shame she isn't here, For whatever reason, that puts an end to the talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild. He's found a particularly interesting picture book, and is now poring over it, when I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Would kill him to at least send a message. Check if I were home. Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts lasts all but 10 seconds. What is with that damn mobile? Are you on a curfew? He's got the immature act down pat, I'll give him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Has he somehow been deprived of affection during childhood? And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it. It is my business, alright? 1. I'm the one paying here. 2. I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here and I'm hungry. What you're doing with that mobile is annoying and distracting, when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer. That's your problem. Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people? Oh, I didn't realise this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine. Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone? Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax, I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret. He's not my boyfriend! The words come out more forced than I've intended. By the time I realise my slip-up, his lips are already spread into a sneer. He slowly crawls up in my face. Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read. Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know, but in the next second he barks out to laugh, displaying his amusement without reserve to everyone within earshot. In that moment I know I've flipped a switch in him somewhere, and I've lost my chance to deny his assumptions. Do I even want to? Is that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile, waiting for another message from him? For a reason to dump this awkward meeting to go after him? Look how modelled you are. Now, the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and a cute little crush. The colour suits you, by the way. It matches the hair. It's not a crush! Classic denial, but in reality you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity because he might misinterpret it. The same goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this? Daisy, just because we've tied the knot does not mean that we've been joined at the hip at every single opportunity. Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you didn't want to be with her for the rest of your life? Because, Daisy, she also has other things that she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes, but wifey doesn't have to know my every move, nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you. Or putting everything you have aside to please them, to have your whole world revolve around one person. Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't have everyone together just because it doesn't work out for you. And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive. What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you always want to see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved, though. Loved enough. Oh, is that kind of thing for you, isn't it? It's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion, shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming. What's next? Romantic confessions of love, a grand wedding on the beach, dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs. How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please. What? I never once said... And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for? Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken. Averting my eyes from his gaze is all I managed to do. What is mere 7 years compared to the 17 I've had with Ash? It's laughable he thinks that those two things are even comparable. Ash and I have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for years, but what we have isn't someone anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger, says, I know there will always be a place for me beside him. And yet... Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20. His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I have been sure of. Despite myself, the doubts resurface and my defenses crumble right in front of my eyes. It's no wonder he sees through me, and as expected, he ridicules it. Kind of laughs at. Restrained, low and rumbling, a sharp sound striking the air around us, amidst the murmur of people and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake, and when his mirth becomes too much even for him, he reaches up a hand and passes it over his face, as if to hold his glee close to him. Bloody bollocks! This is just brilliant. Oh, mother, why do I keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm going to need a stiff drink after this. He dissolves into another peal of laughter, but when it subsides, what he has to me are more words. Scathing, each of them. The urge to run from me has never been this strong. Is everything you said how you plan to act? If that man of yours ever ends up with you, cling to him, put him on a bloody pedestal, let him become the centre of your universe. Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be the icing on top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised that he hasn't suffocated for all your attention yet. And laugh about it all you want. It's not something you'll ever understand. Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one who looks away, focusing his eyes back to where Kylie is, and for a moment I believe I've won, until he draws in a breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, hang heavily in the distance between us. You're right, I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing. It rattles. Out of everything he said tonight, this is the one thing that twinges my heart. Maybe it's in the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture, or an underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely to express a simple truth. This time, it's him who holds gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, and I realise that, if this happened minutes before, I'd already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. There's none. But the anger is there, ringing at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I've long kept. Isn't it enough? We have the long years we've been together. We have the memories. Whenever he needs me, until other people came in between us, I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it, and that one day he'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Now I struggle to find the right words.
Alright, so basically, here's where I am in this. I am at a point where, man, I don't know. I do not know. Because I feel like this is kind of leaning into breaking off Rebecca from Ash and maybe making her look more towards Luke. But oh man, this is so tough. You know what? I think what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna play the villain here, and I'm gonna try and make sure that Rebecca does not fall for Luke here. I want her to stay focused on Ashton. And then I'm gonna get Ashton and Isabella together. And then I'm gonna fucking fix up Luke and Hannah together, maybe. I think that's more what I'm leaning towards. And then I'm just gonna have fucking hopefully have Marianne kind of get over her guilt and all that fun stuff. And then just kind of leave Rebecca bawling and crying and absolutely in shambles. Because, man, I just don't like her character at all. I don't know, man. What right do you have, maybe? Let's save, just in case. What was the last thing we said? I don't need to answer that. However, those are for me to ponder on. This arse doesn't need to hear them, and now that he's entitled to them just because he's dished out some profound-sounding life wisdom no one asked for. So I look away, hoping my own silence will be enough of an answer for him. And it is, for the moment. Up until the warm, furious tears... Oh no, okay, that was right. Up until the warm, furious tears prickled behind my eyes, stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this sorry state. I'm already expecting another bar from him when his expression shifts. Except he panics. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned to utter panic. It probably would have been funny if I weren't so irked by the sight of this glacket bastard. Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry? You stop that right now, woman, or I'll... Will you shut up? He glanced up right before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force in my voice or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. He seems like a deer caught in the headlights, with the way he's making himself smaller in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired, and if I can't punch him, I can at least scream at him. You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that? If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth of yours shut. It does do the trick. Not the effect I've hoped, but the moment I've snapped at him, the stinging at the back of my eyes melts away and the strange calm overcomes me. Okay. Let's go back. And let's see what happens when we choose the other one, because I'm kind of curious now. What right do you have? What did that do? Oh, that lessened his opinion. I'm pretty sure this is his opinion of us, I believe. This is the direction I want to go, though. How dare he, though? How dare he just waltz in and act like he can do as he pleases, say what he wants or trample over other people's feelings? He doesn't know anything about me or Ashton. We've only met a few days ago, and yet he acts like we've been acquaintances for years. He hasn't even met Ash. How can he say those things about him? The longer I hear his tirade, the more it sounds like he's pulling it out of his own arse, out of some misguided thinking that he's better than everyone else in this whole bloody city. What a pompous boarhead. Normally, I'll ignore people like him. He doesn't deserve a single second of my day. But a small voice at the back of my head protests at the simple idea of leaving things here. I refuse to let this go until I've said my piece and defended myself. Those aren't merely months of harbouring feelings for someone he's scoffing at. They're made of years, all of it built upon memories we've had from childhood. What right do you have to tell me that? None whatsoever, Daisy. But did you assume I haven't seen that before? Those longing looks, the face of someone who wants something but has yet to get it. Give me a little credit here, woman. I'm not daft, nor am I blind to your silly little feelings. It's plastered all over your face anyway. I didn't even need to try. A pause comes after this, while I wait for him to add to that. He doesn't, but briefly a wistful expression spreads across his face. Surprisingly gentle, as if remembering an old memory from once upon a time, or something he's constantly seen in the mirror. Excuse me? It's gone in the next second. Then he turns his attention on a box beside him. For the next few minutes he contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins from inside,
folded them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hand when he least interest, and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. I allowed to go on for a little while before I interrupt him. I'm not yet done. And somehow that's reason enough for you. Not at all. In fact, you didn't even need to stay here and listen to me ramble about it. Go on, walk away. The door's wide open, if you wish to be done with this mindless topic. You certainly won't hear me complaining about it if we just drop this now. I, for one, am very eager to be done with this stupid nonsense about your man and your... You don't know me. He pauses in the middle of folding another napkin into an airplane and glances up at me. I'm quite sure we've already established that, Daisy, but go ahead. And you know not a single thing about him. That too is true. Are you going anywhere with this? We've always been together since we were children. We've been friends for a long time. We know each other better than anyone. Compared to those 7 measly years you're so proud of, we've been with each other for almost a lifetime. Not quite. Add a few more years, maybe. It does sound romantic when you put it that way, doesn't it? Not many people get to have someone with them that long. That's what you have going for you, isn't it? Cute years playing hide and seek, going to school together and sharing lunchboxes. Did he also protect you from bullies? I'd bet my socks he did. Lucky. I don't even remember anyone from my old neighbourhood. Well, except for that one Nancy who spat his drink in my face years ago. You better pray I don't find him. So you're just going to call it that? Despite what I told you, you're just going to call it an obsession? Isn't it? But, of course it isn't! Didn't I already tell you? Did it ever cross your mind how your man would feel about all this? You think I've never thought of that? Listen here, you... Or were you expecting to simply feel the same, or because of some shared history you have? Because, fun fact, Daisy, feelings change, and people most definitely also change with time. Whoever that person was 10 or 20 years ago, whatever idea you've had of them floating inside your head, they won't be the same now. What are you trying to get at? Suppose that man of yours wants something else for himself. What if he never returns your feelings the way that you so desperately want him to? What will you do? That's not something to... Are you going to beg? Tell him to choose you instead? Or are you going to lash out at the poor woman or man who happens to catch your man's attention? My voice falters. His eyes focus on me. The pieces of paper he's been folding earlier now left forgotten in the space between us, while he waits for my response. However, I can't give him one. He's already aware of that, and it shows in my face, when his lips form a lopsided smirk. How can I when I've had my suspicions all along? One that rears its ugly head every time I simply see the two of them in the same room. Oh, I hit a nerve, didn't I? That's none of your business. It's true, though. The poor bloke doesn't have any obligation to return your precious feelings, nor can you force him to. That wouldn't be right. If you're just going to mock me, you might as well sew your bloody mouth shut this instant. Now, no need to get violent. But come on. 20 years. Gordon Bennett, if nothing's happened past that mark, you might as well consider your options, woman. Even I wouldn't last that long. Stop it. One of these days I'd like to meet the guy and share a few drinks with him, just to give the poor bloke a break from you, and probably to see how dense he really is. I mean, a lovely woman like you chasing after him, and he doesn't give a shite. That's new. It'll be on me, don't worry. I said stop it! I don't want to hear a word of it anymore. The chair scrapes the floor as I abruptly push away from our table to stand. Looming over him with the most piercing glower I can summon, anger undeterred by my own ragged breathing and clenched fists. Looking down at him in the same manner he did to me through his chat. The only way I can keep my pride intact in front of him and the other people watching this sudden scene unfold. I hate this man. I hate the fact that he can unsettle me like this, turning everything around what I believed in with his mere words alone. What's more awful? It's how easily that he can replace the very ideas I hold dear to me. Not because I'm easily swayed, because in each of them I'm aware there's a sliver of truth. Minutes pass in quiet tension. Some of the diners have already lost interest in the commotion and returned to their meals. A waiter serves our food soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our dinner table unaware. But before I can take my seat, Luke utters something. The words spoken in the same biting tone he has assumed since earlier. Despite my opinion of the man, I stop to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's attention?
I sincerely hope not.
Kylie spoke highly of you.
He spears a piece of his food, pops it into his mouth, and that's it. With that, however, he leaves another challenge in the air. Another question. One whole day with this man and I still can't figure out what his deal is. This time, I don't rise up to it. Doing so means facing a different set of truths I'm not yet ready to face. Bitter truths. Those for me to ponder on later. Not in front of him or these people. His loathsome face and his sneer are the last things I'd ever want to see if that introspection never ever happens. But for all this, I can't bring myself to think of him as somebody wholly despicable. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow, we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school, except for when Luke gestures a nearby flower shop and enters it without waiting for Kylie and I. He emerges minutes later carrying a bouquet of daffodils, with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous ones, he tucks his one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he's not willing to share. At my confusion, he merely answers with a shrug and continues walking. For someone important. I accept it for what it is, if only because he doesn't owe me an explanation. He does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous ones. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions await me, and much like everything today, it comes with the littlest of things. A lone note greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stops short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, though I don't make any moves to take it. Ashen's neat script lines its surface. The message he left, short, straight and to the point, but not without the underlining hint of friendship.
I'll see, dropped by earlier, you went around, any ideas where Scaredy Cat is, I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions, LPD stuff, something about her dead co-workers anyway. Let me know how the two of you have been doing and I'll see you later, Ash.
He's looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about LPD's investigation or her co-worker's death, but ends its formal tone by checking on me. Us. Any other day, the former part of this message will likely have prodded at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will have sent my heart to flutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet this time, only guilt fills me and my eyes briefly shifts towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
Have I always been like this? This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after dinner. If I didn't catch him here, invite him to that party like I planned. This time, and he's probably still awake around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it's for the better. Until I've had time to think this through, it'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The knob twists open with much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman in the mansion to worry about.
October 28th, Friday. I mean, hey, that's not too far from today, right? It's the 30th as of recording this video. And Halloween is tomorrow, so we are approaching.
We're in line with the in-game universe.
Alright, but that is going to be where we're going to go ahead and cut it off. Alright, so some pretty interesting stuff. Again, I think I've kind of gotten a better idea of the route that I want to take with Rebecca. Cause yeah, I'm glad that Luke was like putting her in her place. Like, listen, if you think that, you know, just because you've been together for 15 years, he's obligated to like you or share your affection, you're crazy. Get over yourself. And it's like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Because it's like, yeah, every time... Oh my god. Like, I've explained it in other videos. Rebecca's a bitch. And I'm going to fucking give her a hard lesson in the realities of her whole situation here. Right? But yeah, and with on Luke's part as well, I always feel like it's kind of a back and forth with him. Because one second he's like out cheating on his wife, or, you know, kind of not really making so much of his relationship with her. But then on the other hand, he is he does like little things here and there that like kind of show that, you know, he cares a little bit. You know, such as the moment where I think she got like super drunk and he was like helping her throw up or something like that. There's that. There was him getting the flowers for her just in this episode. And you know, there was even in last episode when he was talking about kind of, well, at the very least where he was hinting at how he didn't really feel like he was worthy of her. But yeah, I do feel like there's just something there in him that isn't allowing him to, I guess, give all that like outward affection towards her and yada yada yada. But you know, it's a complicated relationship that he has with his wife for sure, absolutely. But that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video. And tell me in the comment section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoyed this video or any other videos or series on my channel, then I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one.